Express yourself live on Global Radio 99.5 FM.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. This is a great day to be in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It's getting kind of hot now. We are nearing the summer months, and we expect to have some very hot weather as we move ahead. But hopefully we will get some rain in the nighttime or in the afternoon to cool the earth. Because Bahamians, we don't want a whole lot of fires. We had fires earlier this year. And I think our security forces, the firemen, and the equipment they have has been stretched to the limit. And of course, you know, we have a number of family islands which do not have firefighting equipment. So you have to have people with their trucks and whatever other equipment they may have to out these fires. And Bahamians, you and the family islands, we want you to call in 813-0271. Let us know what's happening in those family islands. I think you're still isolated from your Providence. Now, we have people in Grand Bahama that call. We want to hear more from the people of Grand Bahama. We'd like to hear from the people of Abaco. We want to hear from the people of Andros, all the way down in Eleuthera and all the way south into Inagua, Maguana, Acklins, and so on. But Bahamians, we need to be unified. As a people, we have our problems, we have our differences, but we still can be a unified people. We are one nation under God. And so it's very important that we understand that unity is what's going to take us forward. The problem has been where we've got to ask our leaders to come to us. Too many of us have been sitting back and waiting for the leaders to come to them. The point is, Bahamians, we have some very serious issues. We have to interact with the current leaders who are there now. And of course, the Prime Minister today, he was talking about the budget. And some people, I heard one or two persons say they are impressed with what was being said. But Bahamians, you have to analyze this thing from A to Z. See, like I do with the Constitution, I have to analyze and study that material to see exactly what is being said and what is hoped for by the government of the day. I heard portions of it on the air, but those of you who heard portions of it on air, fine, I'm going to have a few tapes we're going to pull and play so that we can get better clarification on these things. Now, a lot of language was used, which I know the average Bahamian doesn't understand. A lot of these quotes, what the IMF say, and these other people, and the way how they rate things, so much percentage here, so much percentage there, that kind of thing. The average Bahamian doesn't even understand one single thing about what the IMF and the other rating agencies are talking about, because they still class our money as junk. Now, what does that mean? We're still junk bond status, and they got these little ratings in between. We do not fully understand. That is, the average person doesn't fully understand. And the language they use, Bahamians, is very difficult for the average person to understand. It has to be broken down. It has to be analyzed so we can let the woman in Baintown, the man in Foxville who got 6 daughters, he's still looking for husbands for them. And Bahamian young men, you've got to stick around, man. Too many of you are disappearing too quickly. You're getting involved in accidents. You're getting involved in drownings. You're getting involved in shootings. Come on, man. Then when they ain't got no gun, they pick up one big rock and slam the man in his head with the rock. Come on, man. We're not supposed to be living like that unless we have some strangers in our midst who are putting forth this kind of behavior out there, and we as Bahamians get blamed for it. Now, if every Bahamian was like me, you won't have those kind of things happening. That doesn't mean we'll have a perfect society. It's just that we will have a better society than what we got now. And I think there are some things we can do in order to make life easier and better for all of us, because we all have to live here. And of course, those who are abroad, they're being encouraged to come home, and there are some who don't want to come home because they're looking for money. And let me just say this. It's going to take some hard work and commitment for the whole country to move ahead. Over the last 52 years, we've had very few people climbing the economic ladder. I heard some remarks from the gentleman was on yesterday, Mr. Flowers, that's his name, yeah. He mentioned he talked about 4 million he had when he came back to the Bahamas. Now he's a well finance man, and we appreciate him. He's in his 80s, and he's done well for himself, and that's good. We don't want to knock that at all. But we need others to climb the economic ladder, even as he did. He had opportunities. Many of us need to have opportunities open for us, and a lot of us depend on the government of the Bahamas to do some things because the government of the Bahamas has been giving out contracts. I understood some $15 million worth of contracts in March. That's what was said on the air. But when the government gets so big and so powerful, what happens? You know what's going to happen, Bahamians? The government has a commanding control in the country. What has to happen is the government needs to open ways so that Bahamians can grow and expand and make financial success because of the principles, the philosophy, the strategies that the government will put in place. No matter who you may be, you can take advantage of it. And some of us find it very difficult, even with small business. The turnaround you got to go through, the up and down you have to go through. We're just trying to get our feet wet. But if they will make it reasonable, accessible, and stop putting so much pressure on the little fella. And the government said they know some people are not feeling it. Yes, plenty are not feeling it. This economic resurgence, what they're talking about, this surplus, what they say they have. A lot of people are not feeling it, Bahamians. And so now we don't want them to do anything that's untoward. We want to encourage them to stay law abiding. But sometimes a lot of pressure is put on people by certain ones in the country who have a little bit of power in their hand. And they think they can manhandle people and take advantage of people. And then a lot of you just sit back and allow them to do it. We have to be prepared to fight Bahamians so that all of us can be able to survive in the Commonwealth of Bahamas. There are a lot of things that need changing now. The way how the government does business, particularly as it relates to the masses, that has to change. We have to stop selling our land to strangers and foreigners and aliens and outsiders. We got to put a complete hold on that. A former Prime Minister, I think it was Hubert Ingram, who opened this thing up, and the price of land has gone through the roof. When will the little fella be able to get some real land? And you hear the kind of price they're asking for all these properties around here. We need to bring the cost of land down. Now, the government talk about some things they're going to deal with when they come into land. We have to look into that very carefully and see what they say. Would it be constitutionally sound? You can't keep selling all the land, not coming to understand that there are future generations of Bahamians, genuine Bahamians, I ain't talking about them other people, purporting to be Bahamian. They got to have land too. If we sell all the land to the stranger, the foreigner locks it up with his money, then what? We have no more land. And this is Bahamian land. We get locked out in our own country. And a little snippet of land right here on New Providence, people are charging a fortune for it. We need to find a way to make it affordable for the average Bahamian to own his own place, to be able to get into business. And some may have to rent at the beginning. I'm not knocking those people who have rental property. They want to make some money too. But the masses, and let me just say this right here and now while it's in my head. Any policy or any law of the government of the Bahamas that have gone through the House of Assembly, gone through the Senate, went on to the Governor General, and Governor General signed it. It's basically that's what the Governor General is, just signing things which may not be constitutionally sound. I wonder if the Governor General looks at this and says, is this constitutionally sound, yes or no? Because the Governor General has a responsibility, a constitutional responsibility. Now, whether the particular personality in the office will do it, that's another kettle of fish. And we will see when these things go before the Governor General and they're not constitutionally sound, because some things have already been signed which are not constitutionally sound. So when is it going to stop? So now we need to change some things. The way how the government is functioning, and maybe there are some points that are good, we would keep that. But let's look at the overall welfare of the Bahamian people. Are they truly benefiting under the current administration, under the current system of governance that we have in this country? We have plenty of people out there scrapping for a plate of food. And I don't like that. You see, we got canap tree, we got the dilly, we got the mangoes, we got mangoes in abundance now. We got to find a way how to capture that Bahamian. We have to encourage the fellow who has an idea. He wants to have a place in the economy. But some of us, we want to keep him right where he is or where she is and say, no, there's nothing for you. We have some young people in this country that have creative ideas, Bahamians, but they need funding. So we need a way to be found that these things can be funded. We need to take a chance on our people. And young people like me too now, because we got ideas too. Don't forget that. But there are persons who are tech savvy in this country. They got beautiful ideas, brilliant ideas. They live right here on New Providence. They live right in Grand Bahama. They live in Andros. This is their country, Bahamians. We have to encourage them. And sometimes those of us who have been around for a little while get stuck in their ways. They stop thinking, They're not thinking about the next generation or the next generations coming after them. Even the Prime Minister admitted in his speech that we have to move with the times. There are some things we have to change, some old things, and in fact, Dr. Miles Monroe told us, those old weapons cannot help us anymore. Yes, the world is changing. And God is equipping people with creative abilities. So that means that $75 million, what they have given out for consultants, let's not ask our senior members of the society to be volunteering all the time, and then you're paying out $75 million to all them other people. These senior members in society have experience, they have wisdom, they have knowledge, they have understanding. They can be a buffer for our young people But you can't keep them down in the ground and keep saying to them, volunteer, 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 while you pay them strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders the 75 million in consultancy fees. Let's think about using that reservoir of experience and talent and ability and potential with our young people. That would be a beautiful combination. The older generation working with these young people with all this talent, all this ability, all this potential. I'm not, I'm not thinking I'm going to get left out in the cold because of these young people. They can do some things that people in my age grouping may not be able to do. They may understand some things. Now, I understand some things they don't understand, and that's understood. But we must not put them down because of their youth payments. You don't do them kind of thing. We want to encourage them. The young man, the young lady comes. This is a brilliant idea. It could work in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Well, then let's work it. But the problem has been with the government of the Bahamas. And remember now, there's only one government, you know. You've had different administrations of the government of the Bahamas all the way from 1729 right on up to now. Up to July the 10th, 1973. July the 10th, 1973, we became a nation. So prior to that, we were a colony. And some of our leaders today do not understand that shift. That was a major shift, Bahamians. 52 years plus ago. Major shift in the Bahamas. We have not yet caught up with that. We've had persons in authority. You see that SpaceX thing? There's another crash again. That's the third time it crashed. And the man say he want to come up with 3 to 4 weeks. Every time 3 to 4 weeks, he want to get the, I guess, the FAA over there to give him permission. But the FAA don't have no jurisdiction in other people's territory. They go on in somebody else's ocean. Now, we don't know what kind of damage it has done to those people on that side of the world. You cannot have one entity or one company or one corporation, whatever they call themselves, exercising such control over all airspaces around the world. And whatever crap they come up with and they do, come on, Bahamians. Because a man say 3 to 4 weeks, he won't try another one. 3 of them done blow up. Now, something's wrong with that. But the fellow don't want to slow down. Maybe they got money to burn, to throw away. While people are starving in the Gaza Strip. While people are starving or having food shortages right in the United States. People living under the bridge. These are real human problems. That money could be used to help them. We could use some of it here too. The point is, if something is going on and it doesn't benefit the masses of the people, it's no good, right off the top. Whether it's Elon Musk or whoever it is. Doesn't matter. It's just one person. But because this particular personality has money and has some authority, because I think the president made him a part of his cabinet. And you know how the world goes. Some have contact and they could show their little power, their little authority. But the point is, anything that hurts the masses of the people, whether it's in the Bahamas, whether in the United States, whether in Canada, and incidentally, I think I mentioned that King Charles was there in Canada. I think we need to see if we can get the king over here. We need to have closer ties with the government in England. Remember, the monarchy is a symbol of stability. Now, some people say they don't like the monarchy for whatever reason. We can make changes to our constitution. But there's another group coming on to saying they don't want nothing to do with our constitution. They say they want a republic. They want to change the whole thing. You hear any crap like that? Even to the point where you ain't got to go to court no more because they will be the government. You hear any crap like that? Bahamians. The government of the Bahamas must be controlled by the Constitution, not the other way around. Now it's going to take people who understand it and say to the government, you're dead wrong. No, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional. And then we put a stop to it. We're not forceful enough. We're not aggressive enough to fight. We're too laid back. And I'm not knocking people who complain, you know. But payments, you can't keep complaining all the time. We've got to take action against those things that are wrong. We have to point to the government and say, government, this ain't right. Now that over there, what you did that's fine, no problem. But that other thing over there, no. We got to be very careful with them having this SpaceX operating in our atmosphere. And now I'm hearing that we only have so much high we go up and then it stops. But you think this crap going to fall? You think it can stay up there in the sky? It can fall right in the Bahamas, in our waters. A lot of crap is already there now, which we've been able to pull out. Because, the water around Andros is deep. We got oceans in here. Now it falls in somebody else's ocean, in another part of the world. Because you don't see immediate effect right there and then, that doesn't mean that nothing has happened. These things take time. You got to investigate. You got to look at. Time has to pass. A little time has to pass to see what damages would have occurred. From the surface, it may look like, but you see the water in the Bahamas turning. And someone pointed it out to me. And they must keep watching the water all around the Bahamas. And see if you see it turning black. We're supposed to have the best waters in the world. They say, Exuma, I heard the man say on the radio today, what beautiful waters we have. But if these people keep dropping junk in our water, what you think happened to it? The water can turn black. All they got to do is put enough crap in it. And then all this water that we have, unless God miraculously turn the tide and cause it to flush out, we would be in trouble. We don't have those crystal clear waters anymore. So we have to help the government. Because they seem to think, oh, they don't need no authority from us. They don't need nothing from us. We're now a little city somewhere in the United States. Is that what the Bahamas has become now? The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, have authority over the airspace in the Bahamas. And we only go up so far, about a mile up, and that's it. They take over the rest. Come on, man. What kind of nonsense is that? Our airspace goes right up to the throne of God, over the Bahamas. We have to claim jurisdiction over that, Bahamians. That's the way we ought to be negotiating. Not say you go up so high, then the fellas say, I can take over the rest. Because whatever crap he puts up there and it falls down, it's going to fall right in the ocean, fall right on the island, fall right in the Bahamas. And then what you can do then? You can wait till somebody die. See what was happening in Grand Bahama with the chemical people down there? You see how many people have died? And there has been, as far as I know, someone in Grand Bahama could correct me, there's been no active participation by the people in Grand Bahama to deal with those sicknesses, those diseases. People are dead in their grave, Bahamians, right out of Grand Bahama, from those chemicals. We just had a big blowover in the east part of Grand Bahama. What has happened? What kind of compensation did those people get? See, these are the kind of things, Bahamians, we got to deal with because these strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders, as long as they could get away with it, they'll do it. As long as them speaks that people could master our waters, they'll do it. And say they ain't got no say. And say it's supposed to be 20. But them other fellas had a different set of ships and they blowing up. Three of them done blow up. How much more of this nonsense we can put up with? You don't know where it's gonna fall because the fellas ain't got no control. Absolutely no control. You want to ride in space in an aircraft like that, but the pilot don't know where he's going or don't know what he's doing. He can't take you safely from your province to Grand Bahama. You want to be in one ship like that or one machine like that? It just crack up, break right up, crap falling all over the place. And we don't know the severity of this. You got 3 explosions. How much more proof do you want? Some things have to be put in place. We got to have some strong negotiators for the Commonwealth of Zambia. This crew can't do it. We got to find some people who can do it because we got talented Bahamians, but they have to have the knowledge of God. That's what's missing, Bahamians. See, God told us thousands of years ago when they was putting up the Tower of Babel, and now nothing would be restrained from them. What they have imagined to do, them same fellas, Elon Musk and them other people. God told us that thousands of years ago. You think this is something new? And it's way back from the Tower of Babel. And the same crap they had then, we have it now. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Net. The only thing they got motorized towers now. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. The lines are open 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. You want to talk about the budget, but the Prime Minister was talking about, fine, I ain't got no problem with that. You could call in and speak to that. You want to talk about SpaceX, we talk about that too. But we got some things we have on the line. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break. has to say. We want to quote him as accurately as we possibly can. They say no AI today. This is reality. We're hearing the real man, the real person in that office of prime minister. Do you know the office of prime minister is like a gigantic octopus that spreads its tentacles into every single facet of the human life? Do you understand how serious that is? The powers of that office are huge. And I believe we're going to have to make some constitutional amendments because what you have is the House of Assembly, the way how it is constructed, where you give a particular party such a vast number of seats, they tend to be like a bunch of sheep. They would not tell the man. They will not stand up and speak on behalf of their constituents and say, no, that is not right. That is not good. So they just keep going, 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 going. And so the man would think he's doing a good job. If you are afraid to stand up and speak, you're just as bad as the fella you were not willing to correct, even though you know better. But we have to deal with that behavior. You have to help the government at the bottom. This current administration, you got it. They need plenty of help. While they're there, now how long they'll be there is another kettle of fish. But I'm going to tell you right now, because of the multitude of problems that have been occurring in the country, and then preparation for a general election, which is expected sometime next year. The point is, you will have a lot of things being said, a lot of sweet talking things that are going to be said to blaming people. And remember now, when a law is passed, you got to check to see whether the law is being enforced. You ready, Mr. Producer? Okay, go ahead. The producer's going to play this tape. Well, those were some interesting remarks made by the Prime Minister, but I want to go right back to the first part where he talked about the sharing equitably across all sectors of society, economic growth in this country. We haven't achieved that yet in this country. Very few Bahamians have been able to economically advance in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. God bless those who have it. That's fine. That's all well and good. But far too many. In fact, what has happened really, and the Prime Minister say this budget's supposed to help bring these things about. I'm going to talk about those other things, what he mentioned. The thing is, we have to watch and see how this economic thing is going to be shared across the country. Because, see, the way how I see it is we got some who have benefited heavily under the current system, going all the way back to 1967, right on up to the present time. That's 58 years. And while I hear what he's saying, I have to watch carefully and see what's going to happen to people in Centerville, what's going to happen to people in Bain and Grantstown, what's going to happen to people in Foxhill, what's going to happen to the small business person to see him advance and improve. If we can see where there's economic improvement right across the board, like the man say, fine, I have no problem with that. We need it. But we got to remind them about it, Bahamians, every single day from here on out. And you don't let them get let off with that. The man told you that. But sometimes some of us go to sleep and we forget. You're going to have to remind the government of the Bahamas of what they said. And so when you don't remind them, even they may forget what they said. We want to see that economic improvement in the Commonwealth of Bahamas because far too many of our citizens right now below the poverty line, what is considered below the poverty. There's a certain standard that's been set forth. Many don't even have $1,000 in the bank. You know that? And then the bank ain't paying no interest. That's another thing again. The government needs to look at that. How come we get no interest on our money? But we're getting fees. The bank charging all kind of fees. But they're not paying us any interest on our money. Now, a lot of people depend on their check they get from the government every month. And you see them when the date comes around. I think the day is the 28th. Yeah, the day is the 28th. You'll see a lot of them flocking out there. And I'm not knocking them for doing that because they're depending on that money. Every time that rolls around, they're going to go to the bank to get the money. And there's nothing wrong with that. What we need to do is to improve the economy of the Bahamas so that we can have more and more and more people earning more, benefiting more, and they can take care of their expenses. I heard him talk earlier, on the show here today, but I heard him talk about the breakfast program. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with the breakfast program. But if we can get parents to be able to produce more, to have a higher standard of income, then they can feed their own children. But when you have a situation where you have limited money, very limited money, just that little check you're waiting on every month. And that's basically what you got to work with because you may not have any other income to work with. Now, senior citizens, they need more than that. We got to take some of that consultancy money and pay them. Let them become consultants in our country. Instead of giving it to the stranger, the foreigner, the alien, the outsider. That's where the money can flow around in our country. But the money goes out. When the stranger leaves, he carry the money with him. So that's a drain on the economy. But the man say he wants this thing to be shared across the board, which means we are to benefit. I can be watching it every living day from here on out. I expect to see it happen today. I expect to see it happen tomorrow. I expect to see it happen the day after that. And Bahamians, you have to be very aggressive on this because we have suffered, too many of us have suffered over the last 58 years since majority rule. And some people went to their grave. They had court ruling in their favor and they still ain't get nothing. What happened? You can tell me the court has rubber teeth. Is that what it is? And I can name a few companies that have occurred over these many years, but I'll just leave that for the time being. But the fact is, we have suffered heavily, the masses of the people, the masses of the Bahamian people, economic, lack of economic progress. Now, why is that so? While it is important the government may provide jobs for people, and I have no problem with that. What would be better if we can be set up in a way that we are able to produce our own money instead of having to depend on that little check, as many are depending on right now, where we will have the opportunity to create, build these small businesses, let them grow, let them expand in the country so they become middle-sized businesses, big business, and then moving on the international market. Because we got a lot of talented people in here, gifted, talented people. Now, one thing we don't like to do is to share information. I've noticed that with us. It doesn't make any sense if you have something that is good, that is beneficial for the Bahamian people, you ought to share it with your brothers and sisters. Now, the Prime Minister talk about the VAT thing. I think it's supposed to go to 5%, if I'm not mistaken. If I am incorrect, someone should call in and tell me. That's what I understood him to say. And he named a number of products where the VAT is going to be decreased on. We have to monitor to see whether that's going to happen. We got to help them. Don't think that the merchant out there is going to automatically do it. Particularly those who are accustomed to getting something and not abiding by the law. You have to monitor it, Bahamian, because I can be watching. I'm going through that budget with a fine-tooth comb. And all those things that are positive in it, and everything is negative about the budget, but those things that are positive in it, which the government say they want to do, well, fine. That's a good thing. Let's make sure it happens, at least while they're there. Because they say they're running things. They say they have the interest of the people at heart. Is it true or false? This budget's supposed to change things in this country. That's what the man tells me. That's what he told you. Just announced it today. But we will be watching from today onward. I encourage every Bahamian to watch it. Now, some other things he mentioned, the budget about them things with them international people and the percentages and so on like that. I think I get mixed up with all of that. That's that kind of economic talk. We have to break that down so that the average person can understand. That means nothing to the woman in Baintown with M5 boys who listen to me right now on the radio, and she preparing lunch for her children and herself, and then later on in the evening prepare dinner. Those figures mean nothing to her because we are still junk bond status. Now we got to do something about that. What is it we can do as Bahamians to work in cooperation with the government of the Bahamas? See, some things you may not like about the government of the Bahamas. I know one person told me that particular personality could not support the government of the Bahamas, particularly on the international scene. because of some things the government is doing here within the country. Now, I tend to take a different view. If the Prime Minister stands up and speaks on behalf of the government of the people of the Bahamas in an international forum, I support him 100%. Even though I might disagree with some of the things that he say. But we can deal with that, Bahamians. Ain't got to make the man look bad or make the country look bad because you might disagree with some things that he say. You got to know when to keep some things in the country, and when he's out there, he's acting on, or ought to be acting on behalf of the nation. Let me put it that way. Okay? And so you may not like some things that he's doing, because I don't like some things that he's doing. And those who listen to this show know that. But it's an internal problem. We can fix that. So you don't have to always agree with the government of the Bahamas. You don't have to always agree with the Prime Minister. You don't have to always agree with the cabinet, because when they talking crap, then we have to say you're talking crap. It's just as simple as that, Bahamians. And tell them now, fix it and get it right. How many of you are prepared to do that? But now he said some things about these decreases, VAT is going to go down. And he mentioned some other things that we will have to see how that pans out. So there are some positive things that has been mentioned in the budget. We could work with that. But some other things we got to look at and scrutinize it even more carefully to see the fine print. And some of you don't even see the fine print. You don't read the fine print. Like some people would say, the devil is in the details. And there's a lot of truth in that, Bahamians. The devil is in the details. And I would expect the government of the Bahamas to be upfront and honest with the Bahamian people. I believe if we get rulers in this country who would be fair and upfront and open and honest, reliable, dependable, responsible, that kind of spirit will come on the people of the country. If there's this contentious spirit, like how it is with the labor people right now, they are divided. You got two umbrella unions who say they're going to go on the march with the PLP. One umbrella union say that the PLP party has taken over the labor, or the government itself has taken over the Labor Day march. I would have thought that we would have certain laws in place, because you see, some of our people know how to behave, you know. We got to tell them, put on your green socks on Monday and your black socks on Wednesday. If you don't tell them that, they ain't going to do it. You're going to have to be very specific and very crystal clear about instructions. Why we still have all this confusion about the Labor Day Parade? The Labor Day Parade is for who? The workers of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Why is it then that we have a political party deciding to have its political campaign start right in the midst of Labor Day? What does that do to Labor Day? And then some people who are in the unions on the other side are criticizing the TUC for the stand they took. Sarandel gave them good advice, but they don't listen, you know. They ain't listening to Sarandel. Sarandel is the father of labor. What does Sarandel tell us? Labor, unite or perish. Do you understand how important that is? Sarandel saw the need, even though labor may disagree with the government, you got to be united. You can't have one side holding on, trying to serve two masters. You can't do it like that. Either you as labor leaders going to serve the workers of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and not political bodies, not political personalities, not members of the government. That's not your responsibility. Now, you may have some affinity with them. That's a personal thing. What does that to do with labor? Labor Day, if we are not careful, it could become so politically polarized, you won't recognize it anymore. Is it really a day for workers? Now, the TU say they're going to workers' house. I can go down there myself and see what's happening down there. Because I'm interested in hearing what the leaders have to say. They can talk, discuss about issues that still affect them. You have the government saying they have fulfilled the agreement. The TUC head saying they haven't. So who's telling the truth? We have to look at the agreement, see what it says. Now, I heard the Minister of Labor talk about all these agreements that have been signed. Let me tell you something. Paper will stand still and let you write crap on it. And they ain't gonna say nothing. You understand how important that is? You can sign scraps of paper. That means nothing. It's what you do after you sign it. That's what's important. Because labor leaders are still saying there are some major labor issues. You would think in 2025 we should have no labor problem. But looks like we got all kind of labor problems. We cannot just discount what Mr. Obie Ferguson, a respected labor leader, is saying. You may not agree with everything that he said. I'm not saying you should. The man say he went to the Privy Council twice and won. And he said he didn't get his KC. I don't know. I haven't heard any announcement about the KCs. But I know he was a QC. Now, this KC, I'm not quite sure about that. But he said he didn't get it because he signed this memorandum of understanding. It looks to me as if it's a memorandum of misunderstanding because the government is saying one thing and the union is saying something else different. So we got to fix that out, behemoth. Who's telling us the truth? We can find out, you know. That ain't difficult to find out. You can tell who is misleading or whether both of them might be wrong. Both of them could be wrong. Then what? That's why we have to check the facts. We got to check the evidence. Because the minister said she was laying out the facts. I don't know if my producer has a tape about what the labor minister said. If we could find that, we'd play that as well so I could comment on it. But the point is, we are not sure. The Labor Day right now is up for grabs. Are the politicians going to snatch it, or the labor leaders going to snatch it? I hear the music in the background. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. Lines are wide open, Bahamian. 326-0271, 326-0272, 813-0271. We'll be back after the break.
2310. Follow us live on Facebook and Global Radio 99.5FM.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Bahamas, this is a great day to be in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And even though we have our problems, national problems, constituency problems, family problems, personal problems, now we ain't dealing with no personal problems now. You got to handle that one for yourself. The point is, Bahamians, we can solve every one of these problems, you know. But in all the talk that I've heard, not a word about God. Now we get mixed up like that. Where is the knowledge of God in our relationships? Where's the knowledge of God in our labor relations? Where's the knowledge of God in decisions made by the government of the Commonwealth? I got to get some ministers in here to talk about the spiritual condition of this country. In fact, the caller told me that yesterday, and I think he has a good point. The spiritual condition of this country is eroding every single thing we ought to be standing for. There are some wicked spirits out there. Wicked spirits in high places. Do you understand how dangerous that is? They go right up high in the echelons of society. And they do some terrible work up there. Then fall right down on us on the ground. Huh? So Bahamians, we've got to wake up. We've got to help ourselves. We got to pray and ask God to help us. That's number one. Number two, we got to get organized on the ground in our communities, in our constituencies. Remember I told you this on July the 8th of last year, 2024, when you asked me, so Professor, what can we do? And there are some specific things I outlined to you. In 18 months, we can solve one major constituency problem on the ground with your cooperation and with your support. Article 24.1. If other people ain't interested in doing anything, you could do it yourself, Bahamians. And then you deal with them other fellas who don't want to do nothing. You can't keep having people who say they want to do something and you give them the power to do it and they ain't doing it. So what you want to do? You want to just sit right there, grumble and complain every living day? Is that what you want? We have some real issues to deal with. We have to help the government of the Bahamas, no matter how you may dislike them. But they say they're running things. So your duty as a law-abiding citizen is to make sure that you help the government of the Bahamas to do the right thing. That benefits all of us. But if you sit back and you don't even open your mouth to say anything, you're scared. I got to hold on to this little piece of contract. Did the government wake you up this morning and give you oxygen to breathe? They ain't do that. But you say you got one little contract in your hand. So I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna let them keep doing foolishness and nonsense. But then you're doing a terrible disservice to the Bahamian people. Do you understand how serious that is? If you allow things that are wicked and evil and rotten and filthy to fester, it's going to affect the whole nation. Now, we need some strong people, like our forefathers and foremothers, who are prepared to be counted. Stand up. Are you prepared to sacrifice Bahamians? Are you prepared to sacrifice to the thousands of little children out there whose fathers are in the grave? Do you know that? They ain't got no daddy. And every time when they ask where daddy is, the person who they ask can't even answer. Why daddy ain't come back yet? The child only 3, 4 years old, but they know daddy ain't there. And my time, I always had mommy and daddy. So I try to get people to understand my upbringing was so different because mommy and daddy, they were like a covering, a powerful covering. And I still feel that covering today. as young as I am, just like they still here. But the point is, there has been a transition. Now we got plenty of the younger ones in the family. You gotta look out for them too. Because there are times when you have individuals that come into your family who have a different spirit, a different attitude. They ain't like my mother and father, who taught us some basic, hardcore, biblically sound principles that never change. I don't care what kind of degree you got in your hand. Things that are in the Word of God that stand from generation to generation to generation, unchangeable. But baby, that's what we got to stand on. We got to stand on Christian values. And some people are questioning whether we're a Christian nation. Of course we are. And God wants us to turn back to Him so we can help and make this place safe, Bahamians. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good afternoon, Professor.
Hey, what you say?
And good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon to guests. If you have any, Professor.
No, I don't have any guests today.
Okay, that's good. Professor, you know what we need to ask these people that are running now,
Yeah.
do they know the Constitution of the Bahamas?
They
Well,
don't.
Professor, we got to ask them that, man.
No, I agree with you. And that's what I'm trying to get the people to understand about constituency issues and about national issues. I've asked that question: what major national problems have been solved in this country by this current administration?
Mm-hmm.
And here are see, when something is solved, you have benefits, man. There are clear-cut benefits that come to you as a result of major constituency problems, major national problems having been solved, and not a living soul has been able to say, Professor, these are the major national problems that have been solved, and these are the clear-cut benefits we're enjoying today. The government can't even answer that. But we need to ask them.
We do.
Let's ask the government. Let's ask the MPs. Let's ask them and let's see what they're going to come up with. And let them bring the proof. The man done tell me today, say he won this thing across the board economically. I can be watching him from today onward. I expect it to start today because we are 58 years behind. The majority of us are 58 years behind, Bahamians, almost 58 and a half years by July the 10th. So we got to get some economic benefit. But he recognizes that needs to be done. Well, fine. So we got to push him along and push his government along as while they're there now, because things could change. But the point is, we got to get on him today, since he didn't announce it. Let's get our economic benefits, because we are 58 years and a half behind. And some already in their grave, caller. That's what just bothers me. People around there talking foolishness and nonsense. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, Professor, I agree with you 100%. And we can, and Professor, I don't know now. We can't sit down and wait for no more.
No,
we got to put these things in place.
I agree with you 100%. Huh?
I got one or two things I could. When they call you, they could do it because listen here, we could put this one to bed. I know a lot of people is getting mad with it, but we could put this to bed.
Yes.
We should have no flag in the Bahamas because it's in the Constitution. I know some people ain't gonna like it. When Professor, you got the people in court now, so but this is how you do it. You put your hand on your chest and you play the Legion. We could put this to bed. And Professor, we need to go. We can't be waiting. We need to get these trained, learn a trade.
Yes.
Now, if you got money for college, that's fine. Go train to college. But if you ain't have no money, we need to get you trained at BTVI, learn a trade. A light broken down in the house. Nobody can fix it. We got to learn these train a trade.
Yes.
We can't be playing around with this thing. And Professor, we go back to the politician they running now. You got to know the Constitution because you can make us look like you can make when you go in the house, you can be walking out the food store. This was bothering me with bags with no bag.
No bag.
Because someone run on but he didn't know the Constitution, he didn't know the Zuma rights. Now when you go in the house, you can mess up with the marriage. Be a Christian nation.
Yes.
We going on rules of thing. If your wife ain't love you like that, you need to get yourself a divorce.
Of course.
We can change it and turn it into marital rape, and that's what we can do. We can sit right there and do the thing. make what the Bible say. I got a chapter. You can turn foolishness into sense.
Yes.
And right there in Isaiah chapter 5 and 20, you can turn foolishness. That's natural foolishness. And you can turn that into sense. And you can put it in a way people can understand it. That is natural foolishness right there.
Yes.
That's going on that one.
Yeah, thank you, caller. You made a lot of sense today. I enjoy that call because Bahamians, there are specific standards that do not change. I look at these little children today and it hurts me. They're looking for daddy and daddy ain't come home yet. They ask somebody, the little child, 3, 4, 5 years old, when daddy coming home? They can't answer. And so it really hurts me when I see this kind of thing happening. And I have learned to appreciate mommy and daddy more than ever before because guess what? From the day I was born up to the time they passed, mommy and daddy were always there every living day of my life. And I still feel they're here. Even though they've been gone, my mother been gone about 20 years now. And my father was a little more than 20, but they had such a strong influence in my life. And that's why I say to a lot of you out there, a lot of things that you're experiencing, I never went through those things. And so I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but the point is we need strong parental guidance in this country. We got to wait to make that a reality. We got to help the little boy who wants daddy to come home. We have to find a proper substitute for him. But if we keep killing off the fathers of the children, what do you think will happen? We got problems, Bahamians. We got enough problems as it is now. So we got to help these younger persons who got these conflicts, who got these problems, who got these issues. We got to help them. And those of us who always like to talk people's business, but you're not prepared to help the fella, knowing that he has a problem, then let's see if we could discuss this and do something about it. Because it doesn't make sense in a nation where you got the overwhelming majority of your people suffering. Now, the man tell me this thing's supposed to be across the board, this economic thing that he talked about. But he did say BTBI, he mentioned that in his speech, and BTBI is supposed to open up some more and let the people learn these different things. We need people to do these things, fix the light bulb, and all these other things that we got these strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders in here. Those jobs are for Bahamians. But we got to help the fellas. We can't keep them on the block smoking whatever it is they're smoking. It don't smell like cigarette. But some of them smoke cigarette. And then the man tell you the cancer could kill you. Say, stop smoking cigarettes. They don't even allow it to be advertised on radio and TV now. And that's been so for many years. But the people still want to smoke cigarettes. And the man say it is not good for your health. They put it on the box. All you need to now do is stop selling it. Because sometimes we get so psyched out. And even though the truth is being given to you, somehow we don't get it. We don't understand it. It's not getting into our psyche. So what happened? How we get like that? You mean we that stubborn? Not these Bahamian people who worship God every week. It can't be them. So what happened, Bahamians? How we get mixed up like this? We have a spiritual problem in this country, a major spiritual problem. And I'm going to be calling on the pastors out there, godly men, who can come in and come on the show and talk to the Bahamian people, because this is a spiritual problem of mass dimensions. We have to deal with that. We have another caller, or are you ready with the tape? Oh, caller, we got another call. I didn't know. Okay, caller, you live one here. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Professor. How are
Hey, how
you?
you? Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Good, good, good. I was listening to the Prime Minister talk
Yes, ma'am.
earlier this morning, and waiting for him to address the situation. Crime, nothing. Immigration, nothing. Um, Bahamas, they're flying out to Haiti every three
Yeah, we
times a
ain't got
week.
nothing about that.
Nothing. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, like you just said, paper can stand still and let you write anything
All
on
kind
it,
of
and
crap
I
on it.
agree with that
Yes.
totally. Yeah, I agree with that totally. And one of the other things you mentioned that I disagree with,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned about, I guess, not exposing international or I guess our local politics internationally,
Yes, ma'am.
or supporting the prime minister and dealing with internal stuff. I don't agree with that.
No, okay, that's fine.
I don't agree with that
Let me
simply
explain.
because.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm
No,
going to
you
let you
explain.
finish. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I look at other countries, and sometimes you have to embarrass your leaders, for them to understand.
Okay.
I don't think Mr. Davis gets it.
Okay.
Because all of what he was talking about today and what he's been doing, all of these contracts, how do you do $15 million in
In one
contracts
in 1 month.
in 1 month?
That's what the man say.
You know,
I smiled when I heard that.
how do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, and at the end of the day, it's the Bahamian people who have to pay this
Have
money.
to pay the money. Yes, that's
You
right.
understand? Yeah, that's now on the back of the Bahamian people.
Yes, it is.
And then he talk about lowering VAT and taking VAT off particular
Particular
items.
items. Yes.
Well, I mean, and he said, personally, Professor, I don't think we should be paying VAT at all. We
Yes.
should. I mean, we have never had it before, and I don't see why we have it now.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you remember when COVID was on, the FNM was in power, and they were charging us this $40 per person visa thing to come
Yes,
into the
ma'am.
country when you travel,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Now, that particular program made millions of dollars. That was supposed to pay the country's bill.
Yes, ma'am.
VAT was supposed to pay that the country's bill. Well, after these years of VAT, our country bill ain't paid yet.
No, it is not.
So you can't trust these people
Yes, ma'am.
because nothing they tell you can look at and say, yeah, well, he paid that. VAT paid this.
Okay.
We're no better off today than we were 10 years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, we're worse in a lot of ways.
Okay.
You know, I look at you can spend Bahamas there to Haiti 3 times a week. And my aunt can't get from Inagua to Freeport.
That's very interesting. We're gonna have to
I
look at
mean,
that a little bit more closely.
yeah, that's our national carrier.
Yes, ma'am.
We should be able to get to our island.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
And to a war-torn country, you send an airplane down there.
Yes, ma'am.
But Bahamians are being inconvenienced trying to get to the Bahamian Islands.
Yes, ma'am. But I want to thank you for
That's a problem.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your contribution. You made some very valid points.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. No, but the caller has a point of disagreement with what I said, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And I want others to be like that caller, to say if you disagree with a point of view Professor Thompson explains on the air, fine. Now, I'll get back to some of the things that she said, but I want to say why I put it that way. She said sometimes you have to embarrass them publicly, all right, maybe even internationally. But you got to look at it in another light in the sense that how are you going to be rated by the international community? Because there are a lot of forces out there. And they're going to look at us in a negative light because they look at us as being people who can't govern themselves, they can't do anything properly. Here they are always fighting and rowing and fighting and rowing and fighting and rowing among themselves. I believe we have a call on the line. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please. Caller, go ahead quickly. Caller, go ahead quickly, please.
Hey, Professor, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Good, good. The lady, she inspired me just now. I don't mean to take up too much time.
Yeah, okay.
But when she said about, Muhammad said flying all the way to the Bahamas, to
yeah.
and fro.
Well, we're going to look into that a little bit more closely.
Well, I'll break it down even a little more simpler to you.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many people can't board a bus right now to go down to Bay Street? $1.25.
Now, that's serious if that is the case.
Isn't there something there? Every time they beg on the street now, it's for a bus fare. But they could take a plane load of our fuel, fly down there, and bring in every...
Caller, you there? I believe, Caller, you're cracking up
Oh,
again.
my goodness. Here I go again. I think they got me targeted, Professor. Every time I get seated somewhere. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. No, well, I just wanted to say that. And I want to also say that before my phone goes dead again, you keep your eye on Grand Bahama. That's where that lady's from.
Yes.
Keep your eye on Grand
is.
Bahama.
She is, yeah.
Grand Bahama is going to be the first island to make a difference.
I think he's cracking up again.
Yeah, so that's all I want to say then. I don't want to deal with that. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I'm good. I mean, I just said that Grand Bahama is going to be the first one to make this change. I lived there all my life. I know the people. When you hear these sentiments come from Grand Bahama, I feel them. I know them. And Grand Bahama has a lot of guts, and they can make that change. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Okay, yes, you can look and see what is happening with the current administration. We have to work with them while they're there. And we have to get the best that we possibly can with them. But the point is, we don't want to be seen by the international community to be a bunch of people who can't get on with one another, because they're going to look at us in a positive light, even though you may be doing something positive. Now, if you have a disagreement with your leaders, fine. That's one thing. There's a way to deal with that. We have a constitution to deal with that. The caller felt that sometimes it may mean you have to embarrass them publicly, maybe out on the international community. I don't know how that's going to sit well for the Bahamas in the long term, because you got to think about that. If a matter could be handled internally, fine. If we get to the point where we see that we may have to take some other pressure that is essential to bring stability to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, then let's do it. Because there are times when you have leaders that are so stiff-necked and so stubborn and so rebellious, they're not prepared to listen. But I think when I look at the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, there are so many safeguards in it, we haven't even begun to use them, Bahamians. We just haven't. Now, granted, a lot of people may not be aware of these things, but it's always been in the Constitution. You have a political party out there that wants to change that entire thing and say they want a republic. We have a Constitution that has tremendous safeguards in it. The question is, are we prepared to use it? Are we prepared? Because see, let me just say this. You see what's happening in the Gaza Strip? You see what's happening in Haiti? You see what's happening in Ukraine? Are we going to learn anything where the president has said, look, like the man don't want no peace, but he's saying in a couple of weeks they'll know if Putin really want peace? Because he said they got to change some strategy. He didn't specifically say what it is. But I believe Mr. Donald Trump will do something about it. They've done well with the border, the southern border to the United States, Mexico and the United States. What have we done with our borders? The Bahamas borders versus the influx of aliens coming in here. We don't hear nothing about no repatriations. That's a major problem. I didn't hear anything what the Prime Minister said about it. Constitutional issues, the violation of the Constitution as far as citizenship is concerned, by the same administration, by the government of the Bahamas. Because we have to take them to court. And that matter is before the courts. We will see how that pans out. But the point is, we hear some things that he's saying, and I am saying to the Bahamian people, while they are there, let us see what we can do. If we don't want to put them out today, we don't want to put them out tomorrow, which we can do, it's going to take some unusual constitutional action to get to that point. Are we ready for it? That's the question. Are Bahamians ready for it? Some say they want to wait for the next election. You don't have to wait for the next election. Because there are safeguards in that Constitution which you can use right here, right now, today. You ain't got to wait for no election. And deal with those who are violating the law. But are we ready for it, Bahamians? That's the question that has to be asked. I hear the music in the background. I got to shut up. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. I can speak more to what the lady had to say. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break. a strong constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Don't let anyone cause you to cause us to lose it. Now listen, we lose this constitution today or tomorrow. You think we're in trouble now? We will be further in trouble. While some people doing foolishness and nonsense, we have a constitution called the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which a government must subject itself to. And if they ain't doing that, they're not supposed to be governing you. Do you understand how serious that is? A government does not control the Constitution. The Constitution gives the government certain perimeters it must work in. And when they step outside that Constitution, then they're unlawful. And that's what's happening right now with citizenship in this country. Do you understand how serious that is? So while the man might talk all them nice things, what he did say in his speech today, the people say they ain't had nothing about immigration, citizenship. He said nothing about citizenship. He didn't say anything about some other things, important issues. But I know they're supposed to be discussing land. But that was maybe an overview that he gave. But some things, he probably would not have been able to get to touch everything. But they are major, major problems, Bahamians. While getting some percentages on things, but the money is still small because the money got to stretch around. But I want to see this economic thing now, because I expect that money to come in today. What the man tells me, we've been waiting 58.5 years. So if we could get a part of that action now, I can take it. I ain't going to let him get away with that. Now, them other things, we got to deal with it. Now, when I said about supporting the Prime Minister internationally when he goes to speak on behalf of the nation, I know some of you might disagree with that. And the lady has a right to disagree, and I'm not knocking her because she disagrees with that point of view. When he stands up internationally, wherever he goes, and he talks, he's talking for the Bahamas, not for himself. Well, let's put it this way. He ought not to be talking for himself. It is to be understood. See, I got to be careful how I say this. It is to be understood that he is representing the Bahamian people. Let's put it that way. Even if he ain't. But there's a way to deal with a government that is not constitutionally sound. That's what people need to understand. You don't have to keep grumbling and complaining every day. While they're there, you don't want to put them out today? You don't want to put them out tomorrow? You don't want to put them out next week? So we could do that, you know. We're going to have to take some unusual, drastic action for that to happen. But the question I ask is, are we ready for that? I don't want the Bahamians to get into something what they ain't ready for yet. Because that's some serious, drastic action you're going to have to take. But if you want to wait until the time for the general election, there's some other things you can do if you're serious. Prepare yourself for what needs to be done to have a government in charge that is constitutionally sound. Because you heard what the caller said. You got to test them, Bahamians. Because you got plenty of them sitting right in there. Never saw this document called the Constitution of the Commonwealth. Never read it, never understood. But they're in cabinet. So they're running things. Passing laws. And, let's say the legislature passed the laws. But the cabinet carrying them out. And they got this policy, that policy, the next policy. But the policies are not constitutionally sound. Some of the laws are not constitutionally sound. These are statute laws they pass. So they can't change constitutional law because they need a referendum. And the fellas done tell me they ain't want no referendum. Attorney General said that, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs said that. I didn't hear the Prime Minister say it specifically, but he's in charge of government. But he had those two personalities say it. I'm not surprised at that at all. We do not have. See, let me say this to you, Bahamas. Y'all, let me see if I can make this clear. Even if a government perform 100% all the time in its term, you do not have to elect them again the second term. Do you understand how serious that is? You could tell them no. We had enough of you. But when they behaving the way they're behaving now, and you look at it, you say, wait a minute now, we will work with you while you're there, but here's some things we want to see happen. But you got to compel them, you got to force them to do it, baby. See, we don't put no pressure on them, ain't nothing happening, you know. They think they're doing a good job. We can hear from Pia Glover, Roll. I think that's the name, the Minister for Labor. I think Mr. Bruce, you have that tape ready, you could play it. Because I want the people to hear that.
Congress to withdraw from the Labor Day parade, and the narrative they've chosen to build around it is disappointing, misleading, and not reflective of the truth that workers in this country deserve. When misinformation is presented as truth, especially by those entrusted to represent working people, we must respond with the facts. So here are the facts. The Davis administration has prioritized labor issues from day one because we believe in the dignity of work and the rights of working people. We've signed over 55 industrial agreements, which is more than any administration in recent history, delivering salary increases and improved benefits for tens of thousands of workers. Many of the agreements we've signed represent reignited negotiations that were long abandoned until the Davis administration came into office. We increased the national minimum wage, not because we were pressured to, but because it was the right thing to do. We launched the first public service salary review in over a decade and rolled out the first public service-wide promotional exercise in over 8 years. We've achieved a lot in 3.5 years, making more progress on many important labor issues during this term than has been seen across successive administrations. So when the leadership of the TUC suggests that this administration is failing workers, I must ask, where was this level of outrage when significantly less was being done in years prior? The truth is, the majority of what the TUC is demanding is already happening, and they know it. They know it because they've been present in the room. They've helped shape the labor legislative reform that's being finalized right now. In fact, the entire reform process, which was launched in July 2024, is built on their own recommendations. They sat at the table, they gave input, they attended our symposium just last week and said they were pleased with the draft. So what has changed between today and last week? We've been working through the Memorandum of Understanding, line by line, issue by issue. Some of their requests have been expedited. However, there are practical issues hindering the fulfillment of some of the changes they are pushing for. For example, another request made by the TUC is for the government to unionize private employers like Bahama and Grand Lucayan. But unionization is not something governments can impose on organizations. The workers themselves must choose to unionize.
Yes.
Furthermore, Grand Lucayan was not even operational when purchased. However, the government was footing the entire payroll. And now that it's been sold, we're facilitating severance. This administration has taken action to correct the poor decisions made by our predecessors, and we will welcome the decision by workers at the resort to unionize, should they see fit to do so.
Okay, the labor minister made some remarks, very telling remarks, particularly the last part about unions. But it is true the government cannot compel the private employers to have unions, but the workers could compel them. And there's no reason why the workers cannot be unionized because the Constitution allows for it. What I'd like to ask the minister is this. Can she name one major labor problem that's been solved over the time they were there, from 2021? And here are the clear-cut benefits that come to the Bahamian people as a result of this one major labor problem that's been solved. See, I'm not getting that from her. Now, I hear talking about signing these agreements and so on, fine. But even though that has been up, she say 55, I think it was, the figure she used, 55. The point is, yes, they have had their meetings, they had their symposiums, but what happens after? She talked about misinformation and not being truthful. Now, what has to happen is we have to examine that a little bit more closely and see who's telling the truth and who's giving misinformation, because she's saying the union is misleading and giving information that is not truthful. Of course, another way it could be used, she didn't use that, so I'll just stick with what she used. But basically, it's the same thing. I don't think the president of the TUC, that's why I can go to the thing what he having at Waker's house. And I can ask him, I can confront him personally and point blank. I don't know of him having to say anything that might be misleading when it comes to labor matters. Now, there may be differences of opinion, different viewpoints on certain sticking points. Fine, I could live with that. But outright misinformation, outright lies, outright truth. Now, she didn't use the word lying. I use that word. But things that are not truthful are lies. When you don't tell the truth, you're telling a lie. You can't get away from it. But the point is, I don't know, and I can ask Mr. Ferguson about that too when I see him. Because we seem to be going back and forth, back and forth. The labor leaders are not united. Two umbrella unions are going to go on this march with the PLP. The PLP say they're bringing out their crabs. So even the workers who may be affiliated with that particular party are going to be marching under a political banner, not their union banner. Now, what do you think about that, Bahamians? This is a day for Wakers, and it should be labor matters only on Labor Day. Sarandel told them, labor unite or perish. Now, there may be some other things that are happening behind the scenes that I may not know about, but we can only go by what we know to be available to us, and we can analyze it carefully and see what is being said. And we will know whether someone is lying to you, yes or no. You will know that. That's not difficult to understand. That's why we listen to what the minister is saying. The minister presents a point of view, O.B. Ferguson presents his point of view. Then we got to look at this memorandum of understanding. It seems like a memorandum of misunderstanding. And she's saying most of the points, the majority of them have been fulfilled. And Mr. Ferguson is saying, no, they haven't been fulfilled. So right there you have a conflict. Now, there may be some misunderstanding on this memorandum of understanding. That's what I believe it is. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Everything's good. Hey, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this psychological warfare that's going on between FNM, PLP, unions, and all the BS that they're running right now, I think I ain't getting up in that, right?
You're getting up in that. Okay.
But I keeping it more real, Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Remember, I keep on complaining about Shirley Street ain't getting paved and
yes, you're not the only one.
Look like a dump ain't getting paid.
My sister was talking about that too.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You realize that these Negroes around here got it upside down?
Okay.
You know what? They paving Cowpen Road, right? Cowpen Road, the silky smoothest road in town, like you going to the airport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What, you hear me? You hear me? Like one strip and thing, man. Ice and down, right? You think it's fair? I mean, our main thoroughfare downtown, where all the cruise ships come in and bring in a little change for the Bahamian people, right?
Yes.
They ain't gonna pave that. They ain't gonna pave in front of the new embassy. Fred Mitchell, I blaming you. You as the foreign affairs minister, and you should be shaming yourself. The American building nice. That's, I mean, the best embassy in the world that they built. And Fred, with these little wicked base, men in the know have that paved. Because, you know what? He ain't having his day with President Trump. You know, that's what it really is, you know. This nonsense we got going on with our prime minister making sure Cowpen Road better than Bay Street, because I shouldn't run things in this town, because I ain't gonna say what is what, you know. But we gotta stop this foolishness, man. You know, we Haitian better than them in the Bahamas. You know, then we talk about Haitians, oh, we don't like them. It ain't a matter of liking, it's a matter of principle. You know, we could be doing things upside down in this country, our leaders and things. They ain't better than criminals, man. Because you know, all these Haitians supposed to be everywhere you turn, you running into Haitian. It ain't fair and it ain't right. And you know what? Haiti do not allow Bahamians to be doing things in their country that Bahamians allow Haitians to do in our country. It ain't fair, man. When these men are stop their foolishness, they ain't importing back no. In fact, they importing them on our Bahamas Air jet. They just got a new jet. You can do that same service. You realize that Mr. Thompson?
Okay.
A brand new jet just to be going Haiti to waste space in the Caribbean. We even ain't part of CARICOM. We're not a part of the CARICOM, right? And we right up in the Caribbean. And this Caribbean ideology, right? It's like, hold on, this is a member. Any CARICOM member could go live in any CARICOM country, especially Haitians could be anywhere in the Caribbean. Mr. Thompson, being in the Caribbean, eh?
Well, I believe we are part of CARICOM.
I beg your pardon?
I think we are part of CARICOM, yes.
We mixed up in daily business, but we are out of the Caribbean. We in the West Indies. You remember when he's growing up in something? We in the West Indies. You remember that?
Yes, I heard that.
Us in Bermuda. You know that?
Yeah, I heard that.
And the Caribbean starts from the south coast of Cuba.
Okay.
I don't know Finland figure that he mixes up all inside this bad business and things with bad company. The Bahamas is doing so good before we get mixed up with this CARICOM foolishness.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. And thank you very much. The caller is very upset about the Bahamas is a part of CARICOM. I believe it's 15 nations. And then Haiti was observer. I think Haiti's now a part of CARICOM. Anyone else there that I'm just going from memory now because the Bahamas is a member of CARICOM. And it does not mean that we have to agree with everything what CARICOM is doing. But I got to check out this road that the caller mentioned because Shirley Street and Bay Street needs to be properly fixed. The roads are very bad. And that's right in the city. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Professor. The gentleman who just called, we are not a part of the Caribbean, and that goes back way back from in the 50s and 60s, and you learned that in high school.
No,
I agree with him. They're bringing all these people here. What are they bringing them here for, and what are they contributing?
Caller, see if I could make this clear. The Bahamas is a part of CARICOM.
Yeah, there's CARICOM, yes. We're part of CARICOM, but we're not in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay, but that geographically, yes. Okay,
to pull us in to get some of our benefits. Everybody wants to come here and suck the Bahamas into all these different things that they came up with, these theories, and all these different organizations. It's only trickery to get us pulled in because we live the best in this region. That's all it is.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Another thing again, they're bringing all these people in here. Would they bringing all these people here? Where they're going to live? Where they're going to work? Why would they keep bringing in people for what?
Yes.
What are they doing? What are they bringing in? When they come here, how are we benefiting from all this influx of people?
This is what we have to inquire into, and I think the Bahamian people have to ask their representatives. We're going to see if we can get a hold of the gentleman in charge of Bahamas there, so we could get him on the show, and any others connected with it.
But
Because
what are we bringing them here for? What are
that's a
they
good
coming
question.
here for? They coming here. They have large sums of money to spend? Where are they going to live? Where are they going to work? We're just bringing them here. What are we bringing them here for?
Yes, ma'am. You asked some very good questions, ma'am. And I want to thank you for your contribution. Those are the kind of questions we need to ask the government of the Bahamas and the minister in charge of, I think, tourism, and some other ministers in the government, even the prime minister himself. I believe we have another call on the line. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Professor, I'll say this real quick. I've been on before. I do agree with every caller who said that the Bahamas is not, please, you say you got to always watch the words people say.
Yes.
We are part of the CARICOM.
Right.
We agreed to that through pending, but we are not.
We're not geographically in the Caribbean.
I'm
That's what
sorry?
he said. We're not geographically in the Caribbean.
Right.
No, but
Right.
that is correct, and I'm glad you pointed it out.
Because if we live in this a lie, man, we can suffer consequences of lie. God reign on the just and the unjust.
Yes, he does.
Thank you very much. God.
Thank you, caller, for your contribution. I appreciate the callers who call in. We have another call on the line. Let's get that call in. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, what's up, Professor?
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah, everything good. Well, I changed the topic a little bit right now. Professor, what they planning to do for this country, for the, dealing with this traffic, man? Professor, we
You
have
mean
a
the traffic on the
problem.
streets?
Yeah, every day. I be on the street every day going to work, dropping my daughter. And Professor getting voices right now. Professor, I'm on Shirley Street right now for almost 45 minutes in one spot.
Wow.
Professor, we have a problem. We have a disaster or something like that. Everyone jumping in the car will be. That's a serious thing. The ambulance can't get past.
No, they can't pass.
We have a problem in this country. It's too much cars in this country, and they ain't addressing that. They ain't addressing how they gonna develop the roads, how they can develop overhead or do something, Professor. We can be some serious problem.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're quite right. There has to be innovation.
And I can't see.
That's why we have to, there's some things that are happening right now that need to change. And the question is, are we prepared to put the kind of pressure on the government of the day to make sure it happens?
Right.
Because see, as I see it, I don't see enough pressure from the general public and from the constituencies in this country to put pressure on the governing authorities, Mr. Davis and his crew. We have to put pressure on them. Now I am trying to get people to understand. Mind you, we could take some unusual constitutional action, But I don't know whether the country is ready for that.
No, because they're getting a little cut. See, well, you listen to this, Professor. If you hear people along to get $1 or $2 raise, or but they get one little food sum coming every week.
But that's not solving. That ain't solving the problem. That's a temporary thing. We need something permanent. The Prime Minister talked about the breakfast program. I heard him mention that earlier. That didn't come on our radio station, but it was on air, and that may be fine and good. But then how we could even do better than that? How about helping the mothers and the fathers to be able to take care of their own children and give them good breakfast every morning? Do you think that would be good? Caller, you there?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Would not be better? Because see, we've got to get the people out of this dependency state, man.
Yeah.
Now the man tell me about the economic thing supposed to be straight across the board. I watching him from today onward. Because I can keep hammering it on the airwaves. And I want the Bahamian people to hammer it into the Bahamian government while they're there. Because we could take them out today. We could take them out tomorrow. But the question is, are we ready for that kind of drastic, constitutionally sound action that we can take? Are we ready for that? Because we get 250,000, 200,000 that are ready for that? Because that's what we're going to take, Bahamians.
Yeah.
See, they got to understand what we are up against. If you want change, you got to wait for that change, baby. Ain't gonna be easy because these fellas are holding tight to what they think they got when we could yank it out their hand right now. Yeah, go ahead, Paula.
Professor, boy, we have to see the small thing in this country with raising up. I mean, the payment people them don't talk, not in the sense. They want him with this stuff and all of it. They want with these small things, but raising up.
That is true.
Man.
Yeah, Caller, I gonna have to stop because my producer is being very patient with me. Yeah, call me tomorrow. He came in on a good point. I wish I could have carried it further, but my producer is telling me I need to stop. This is Professor Sidney McCarter, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. Thank you for those flurry of calls that came in the last part of the show. Payments tomorrow start right at the very top of the show when you make those calls. This is Professor Sidney McCarter, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Have a pleasant afternoon. Please pray to God to help us to save the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney McCarter, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. Have a pleasant afternoon.